Hi there, welcome to theprofitwizard.com. I'm Chris Hanlon. Today is the first in a series of tactical tips videos that I'm going to do, or posts that I'm going to do, and this one is on LinkedIn. Now normally I just focus on strategy because that's what I'm best at. There are a bunch of things that I do that other people ask me, how do you do that? And LinkedIn is one of those. So that's what this one's about. So it's much more tactical, it's much more how do you do stuff. Because this is a how-to video, I don't want to make the video too cumbersome, because this is a how-to tactical tip. I don't want to make the video too cumbersome and you have to go through it too much. So it's going to be very high level on the video. We're going to just hit the high points, the why you want to do things, overview of the steps, and then below in the blog post will be all the details of what to do, screenshots of where to go, what to click on, that sort of thing. Okay. Now, if you're watching this on my YouTube channel, there will be a link below in the description to the blog post so you can go in and see all the detailed instructions there. Right, let's dive into it. LinkedIn is the social network for the professional. Now, what it is good for is three things: getting a job, if that's what you're after, getting project work or contract work, if that's the sort of field that you're in, and keeping on top of, or keeping the pulse of your industry. Because there's plenty of people on LinkedIn and those groups talking about your industry. So it's a great way to keep on top of what's going on, where the queries are, and what's happening, and who's who. When you have a decent LinkedIn profile, the results can be amazing. So a colleague of mine, her husband was being laid off from work. Now, he's in the printing industry. I'm not in the printing industry, don't know anything about it, don't really know, I maybe know one or two people that are in that industry, but I thought I'd see what I can do to help him. So I sent out the word along through my LinkedIn network to a bunch of people that I know. And he got 4 people contact him about potential jobs, phone interviews and face-to-face interviews. So that was a great result. More recently, what prompted this particular post is another friend of mine who's being made redundant. I said to her, Nicola, you've got to get your LinkedIn profile sorted out. It's a great way to get jobs. And she's like, oh yeah, I couldn't get around to it. So I took a CV, uploaded it, set up the first couple of steps in the steps that you'll see below. I've only managed to do the first couple of steps. I did a summary actually. And so within 2 hours, she had an email from a major company in New Zealand, major employer in New Zealand, sounding out about an employment opportunity. Now, I will say that Nicola's got really specialist skills, very sought after skills, so I can't say that's going to happen for everybody, obviously, but it does give you an idea of how quickly this sort of thing can happen. So within 2 hours of getting her profile up there, she's got potentially a line on the job. What did get me about Nicola is that it seemed too hard for her. She's like, she doesn't have a LinkedIn profile. I think she'd actually joined, but not really set anything up, like many of us did. I'm sure that's how I started as well. Somebody invited me, I joined it, just didn't spend the time setting it up or anything like that. And that might be your case. And so when you are in that position and suddenly you have to look for work, it can be quite daunting. So this whole post is about how to make it quick and easy. There are 7 simple steps to getting a dynamite LinkedIn profile. First step is to sign up, simple as. Second is to upload your CV. Third step, crucial step, is to do your summary. Fourth step is to make connections. Fifth step is to get recommendations. Sixth step is to link with groups. And seventh, and this is optional, is to start adding some apps on your LinkedIn profile. So I'm going to go through them in a little more detail now, but below will be the detailed instructions of what you need to do to get all those things happening. Step 1, sign up with LinkedIn. I'm not going to go through the details of that. It's pretty straightforward. The only thing I will say is make sure that you use the name that people know you by. Use the name that people are going to search for you by. So I have used Chris Hanlon. I haven't used Christopher Hanlon or Chris G. Hanlon because I'm known as Chris Hanlon. If I was an author and used my middle initial in all my books, if that was the case, maybe I would use my middle initial, but ideally you just want to do what people will search for. Step 2 is upload your CV, and this is a lot easier than you would think. Most of us have a CV that's been sitting around on a file since the last time we got a job, right? So you can pull that up, dust it off, hopefully it's actually electronic, and you can upload that, and it auto-populates in LinkedIn. It's quite simple to do. I was very impressed with how accurate it auto-populated. It seemed to do it very well when I did it for my friend. Just having that auto-populate and suddenly you've got a whole page or so already done gives you a bit of a boost. You know that it's done really quickly. So recommend that for step 2. You can obviously fill it out manually, and if that's what you want to do, absolutely do that. But if you do have a file, a Word document or something with the CV on it, try the upload that, give it a go, and then go through and clean it up and make sure, go over it with a fine-tooth comb, make sure that it's done it properly. Step 3, write your summary. This is probably the most critical thing. I think it's the most critical thing. What you want is to get people's attention. This is where you get to inject your personality in. So I like to use a simple structure of a little bit of a sentence that gives an idea of who you are and what you're about. Then a little paragraph on your business, and from the point of view about what you like to do, so the aspects of your business that you really like or passionate about, and why or how you add value to that. So what it is that you take pride in, or what it is you really enjoy doing, or what it is you think you're really good at, and do it in your personality way. And so that's a paragraph, and then another paragraph below that, probably about half the size of that one, is where I'd put round you out as a person. These are the things you do out of office. This is your hobbies and that sort of thing, and what makes you a person. That's where you might mention family, you know, you have kids or whatever, that's where you'd put that. So you want to round that out as a person. Remember, in most things like resumes and that, they're very cut and dried, very dry reading. So this is the one place where you can inject your personality and put something in. The next really important thing is to have some connections. You must have a number of connections. Now I would say that you should initially aim for 50 connections. All right, that's what you want to get to. Why do you want connections? Well, if you're going for a job and you've got very few connections there, it raises a bit of a red flag, consciously or subconsciously, with anybody who's looking to maybe hire you, because they're going to start wondering, whoa, is this person not liked? If they work with lots of people that just ignore their connect requests because they're not very well liked, or whatever, okay? And it's particularly worrying if, like most people, like me, you connect up to LinkedIn, ages ago and didn't look at it, and then you start filling it in and start getting connections later on. They look at you and they look at the profile, and if they can see that, hang on, you've been on here for 3 years and you've got 5 connections, something's odd there. So you really want to get those connections, you want to get them quite quickly. Fortunately, LinkedIn makes it very easy for you to get connections. Now, as soon as you've got plenty of connections, you need to get some recommendations. And as I say, you want to beg, bribe or blackmail somebody to get these recommendations. You really need some. Now, I would aim for 10 to 20%, 10 to 15%, 10 to 20%. So if you've got 50 connections, like we said, you want at least 5 to 10 recommendations on there. So 10% is pretty reasonable, so aim for that. Now, the way to get recommendations is first to talk to the people that you know very well, and just, if they know you're looking for work or whatever, and they've had a good experience and they're happy to do that and they use LinkedIn, I'm sure you'll get some recommendations fairly quickly. I've got a few more details written below on how to approach that, which brings us nicely to groups. Groups are the heart of LinkedIn. So as soon as you've got into LinkedIn, you want to join some groups, and probably the easiest way is to go to your connections and see what groups they're in. And if they're in the same industry as you, so they're colleagues that you've worked with in the past, or people that you've contracted for in the past, those are the places where your colleagues, your prospective employers, or your prospective or your prospects will be gathered. So those are the places you want to join. So join those first and join them in your area. Now I do recommend you join some locally or nationally, in our case in New Zealand, but also join some international ones. Just don't spend all your time on the international ones unless you're looking for a job overseas. You know, spend most of the time in the place where you want to get a job. But it's really important that you join some groups and go in there and start entering into some of those discussions. You want to include some insightful, intelligent comments to some discussions that you enjoy and things that you're knowledgeable about. Because when you do that, if you can add value to that discussion or that conversation that's going online, you'll find that people in that group will start clicking to connect you. And finally, step number seven, as I said, is optional, and that's to add apps. So I've got a blog feed of my last posts that are on my LinkedIn. I also have used SlideShare, and so I've got a little PowerPoint with me talking about one of the things that I deal with. And I also use Amazon. Amazon, it shows me what I've been recently reading. And that shows people that I am keeping up to date with local, the content and that sort of thing. And also I can use it to highlight the fact that I've got a couple of books that I've written that are available on Amazon. So that's a personal thing. It depends on you personally, it depends on your industry, what you want to do. But I do recommend the apps because they do give your profile a different look. People flicking through lots of profiles, when they get to your profile and it's got a couple of apps in there, it's a bit different. They'll see that and it stands out. So you want to differentiate yourself a little. So I recommend the apps. So there it is, 7 simple steps. Now, one thing I will say though, don't be tempted to put this off just because it looks hard or whatever. Speed is key. Just get into it. Please leave a comment below of anything that you felt helped, or if you've got some tips that you think others will benefit from that I haven't mentioned, add those to the comments below as well so everybody gets to share them. So that'd be great. And of course you can pop onto my LinkedIn profile and connect with me. All right, I'll see you later on theprofitwizard.com.